Zoya, Farida, कुछ टिप्पणी? No? Farida? Mic दीजिए उनको, Professor. Okay. Now I took this side, so beach की side. Baby, I'm coming. Sir, please, आप बताइए.
Very good evening to all of you. I'm Shah, Senior Vice President of Jammu Kashmir Awami National Conference, and at present spearheading the 35A campaign that is going on in the Supreme Court. I've heard a lot of questions, and the distinguishing panel that is here talked about Kashmir. Subject is way forward. So I would here like to ask all of you together today, because we talked about yesterday's the carnage that took place in the valley, wherein we lost so many lives. And every single Kashmiri is very, very heartbroken and sad about it. But today, while we are talking here, I would like to tell the panel also here, and my friends, ladies, all my youngsters here, that we have had a very, very disturbing news coming out of Jammu while we are sitting here. More than 100 odd vehicles have been torched by now, and so many houses have been attacked. And the governor's administration, it could have clamped curfew since yesterday evening as a precautionary measure. What I would suggest, that we would be listening to all our distinguished, all the people on the podium. We'll be listening to so many questions here, so many answers. But I would suggest, as a way forward, a simple suggestion, if it would be agreed upon. How many of you present here or on the dais are ready tomorrow to walk from Jantar Mantar to the parliament and say, hey, stop this in Jammu, stop this in Kashmir? Are you ready? Then please do that. Let the CPA make this announcement, and let us all go and walk for Jammu and Kashmir, walk for this country, walk for humanity. Please do that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, despite my deep desire to accommodate every question, I'm afraid we won't be able to do it. We just have about 50. Can I make a suggestion? Please write your names on a small piece of paper, and I'll ask each member of the panel to draw a lot. Sorry, but कभी-कभी किस्मत के फैसले मंजूर रहने चाहिए. कागज दे दीजिए, सब नाम देंगे. In the meantime, Sukumar, would you like to say something? No? आप अपने नाम दीजिए. We'll just draw. Yeah. Yes, Nina, please.
That just as our problem in India has been the partition of the country, do you recognize that Kashmir is partition? Does that play a role in the 5 points that you put before us, with which I agree completely?
Thank you. Santosh? Yeah, please. Mike?
I'm Vijay Naik, I'm a journalist. I just want to have views of Mr. Faizal on 2 points, actually. We have been reporting Kashmir for a long time. We have seen Rajesh Pilot, George Fernandes, and many others being sent from here to talk to every stakeholder in Kashmir. They have talked to these people. Then they come back. We have got Mr. Dilip Pargavkar's committee going there and discussing all these things, you see. Now, we have seen the safe passage also policy of this center. But what has gone wrong on these particular things, as Kamal said, it is the center which was responsible for these things. And secondly, what you have to see of silencing the inner voice of the media, like Shujat Bukhari in Jammu and Kashmir. These 2 points I would like to have from you, the views.
Yeah. Okay, have you written your names? Now, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to accommodate.
No, I think you at random.
Okay, please, aap boliye, the gentleman in... Yes, you. Yes, you, yeah. You know, there's so many names, I want to be arbitrary.
I have a short question. I want the panel to
ponder upon what would be the role of the Kashmiri civil society. What can they do?
Just have a civil society, that's more than enough. Yes, yes. Boliye, the gentleman in the, young man in the blue striped t-shirt. I'm sorry if I'm being arbitrary, but I have no choice. Yeah.
Actually, I was recently in a debate show. I asked the question that the debate show was about the eradicating the Article 370. So the panelist told that, I asked him a question that this is a great provision you have provided to the Jammu and Kashmir. But in spite of this provision, there is a lot of unrest in the state. So now you are talking about eradicating. Don't you think that there will be more unrest? And he replied, the answer was that by eradicating this, we are making 93% of the Indian population happy. And
so what is your question?
And the question is, yes, I am coming to that. And the question is that is this the healthy way? Is this the healthy approach for the way forward? And is this what we are showing to the Kashmiri that you belong to us?
Yes, at the back. Yes, in the black t-shirt. Boliye. Ji, up. Mic kind.
Sir, today more than development, more than employment, a Kashmiri wants his political aspirations to be fulfilled. Sir, what is your vision for the same? Because all the Kashmiris want is not jobs. Though there is an element of joblessness in Kashmir, we see there have been a lack of development, but more than that, he feels alienated from the mainstream. So what's your vision for the, to bring Kashmiri youth into the mainstream?
You know, I'm so happy to have all these questions on education and jobs being raised. I really congratulate all the young people here. It's a very healthy development in our political discourse. Not a single mention of the cow. Thank you. Yes, this young woman. At the back. I'll call upon you later. Yes. You have to be now fair to me and ask a short, sharp question.
So recently we saw the central government taking initiatives like taking groups of Kashmiri students to All India tour so that they feel inclusive and they feel that they're a part of the country. So do you feel that such actions on the part of the central government are helpful? Do we need mighty earth-shattering actions or we need baby steps as a way forward on the part of the central government?
Thank you. Yes,
Mr. Faizal, sir, if you could answer this question.
Yes, the gentleman who's raised his hand. Puche? Then I'm going to come this side because it's been ignored. Yeah.
Short and simple, sir. You mentioned the polarization between the center and the state. I'd like you to touch upon the polarization also within the state, the difference in aspirations of the difference between the people of Jammu and the people of Kashmir. If you could touch upon that as well.
Thank you, yes. Now I'm going to allow 3 questions more because there's a very big list that I think the panel will have to respond to. You can't expect only him. Yes?
Yeah, everybody has been there, be it foreign affairs expert or defense expert or whosoever is there. There has been solution in everybody's mind. But they say that it's not going to be done in near future. What's the hurdle? Why it's not being done? All the experts who have been working for Kashmir for the last 30 years, they know Sima Musfa knows some sort of a solution. Everybody knows. Bajaj sir knows. Manishankar Iyer sir knows. All the people know. They have been working for quite a long time.
We've got your question. So thank you.
What's the
yes.
What we can do about it? There have been a lot of...
Yes, thank you. We've got, yes, a young lady here.
Hello, sir. I'm really happy to see that the Kashmiris are coming forward, leaving their bureaucracy and going to the new political system. But my question is about that, don't you think we need to get to the root level of where from radicalization has started? It's not only about the countries, it's not about India, it's not about Pakistan. I don't want to give it an Islamization phase, but we need to see how in Kashmir we are going from Sufi to Salafi thought. We need to get the radicalization.
Very good question. Thank you. Yes, somebody from this section? Yes, please, at the back. Next is your section. Ho gaya.
Good evening, my question is to Shah sir. Sir, I want to know what's your way of going forward. You said you want to do it in a political way, but we have one of the in National Assembly saying that it is beyond my jurisdiction. So what's your way of forward?
Thank you. Yes, from here I'm going to give each section a chance. Yes, from this side, yes. Sorry, luck of the draw. Yes?
Hi, Shah.
Write your question, give it to him, he'll reply.
So, you know, a lot of criticism has been of the center, that the center doesn't coordinate. And since you've chosen political life, how do you think you would be different than what we've seen yet from coming from Kashmir?
Thank you. This section? Yes, the gentleman, the young man in the blue shirt, yes. Puchi, jaldi.
Hello, I'm Shahzad. So actually, I'm from Assam, and I'm very happy that Seema ma'am mentioned about the Nelly messages.
Thank
so
you.
my question is that the dialogue can be a very good solution. So the question is, should it be a bilateral dialogue or should it be a trilateral dialogue? Thank you.
चलिए ये सोचते हैं इसके बारे में.
one question.
Yes, the last question from this side. I'll ask. मैं बोल देता हूँ. बोलिए. कोई है? नहीं तो you ask. Yes.
Ma'am, one question here.
Yeah. After him. Who's asking?
We have established that media, national media and the newsrooms are not very good in the country. But how do we change that? We had seen that channels like The Wire are coming up, which are not taking funding from many of the organizations but are run on public funding. But we have also seen the kind of approach these channels have. So how do we change the media scenario of the country to change the larger political system?
Thank you. I think a lot of media is doing so. You have
one question.
responsible journalists here. Yes, the gentleman in the... You and the boy in the back, yes. माफ कीजिएगा मुझे आपको नाम नहीं मालूम. I have to describe you by your apparel.
Hello, sir. My question is to Shah Faizal, sir. Sir,
quickly.
As a politician, sir, how would you restore my faith in the Indian democracy when even in 2019, my governor announces the name of the mayor even before 2 weeks before the actual results? How would you restore my faith in the Indian democracy?
Last question. Yes, that young woman and then the young man in the white sweatshirt. Yes? You'll have to take off your mask.
Hi, my question is how and where do you envision Kashmiri women in your way forward?
Yeah, and you? Yes.
Do you think the question of enlarging the democratic space requires as a condition that we incorporate the question of Azadi within the ambit of discussion?
Very good question. You know, if you're... Huh?
No, not on mine, but I would want sir to meditate on this media and all that. But alternative media, then I'll be taking questions.
Yes. I mean, I was going to say, if you're going to enter public life, you've got your agenda. It's unfair to expect him to answer every question. So I would request members of the panel to pitch in, if when they can. I'm just regulating time.
Thank you. I'll be very brief with some of the questions which I think sum up the problem in Kashmir. One would be what happened to those reports and why we always have these interlocutors and the negotiators and the arbitrators coming to Kashmir and nothing happens in Delhi. Because for every large report created in Kashmir, there is a large dustbin in which it's put later on. That dustbin, I mean, we have not been able to kind of figure out how we can possibly reclaim these reports from that and get something going in Kashmir. I think the day there is a sincere political outreach and an initiative from Delhi, we'll see definitely some movement happening in Kashmir. Till then, all these, in fact, what has happened over a period of last 30 years is that we have discredited the institution of dialogue. Last couple of years back, when a group of parliamentarians tried to visit the separatists in Kashmir, they were snubbed because over a period of last 30 years, we have made this institution, these reach outs, very meaningless. I think we need to bring back credibility to those institutions of dialogue and reach out if we want some movement to happen in near future. What about the fulfillment of aspirations? I will be clubbing these two questions that what in this democratic discourse which we are talking about, is there a space for talking about things which are like taboo words? So I think I have been consistently saying that when it comes to enlarging the democratic space, we need to also allow those taboo words to be discussed. When it comes to, if people talk about RSD in Kashmir, what do? I mean, you better listen to those people, listen to those voices, because as I said earlier also that we need to enlarge the idea of sedition, the idea of freedom of speech when it comes to talking about Kashmir, if you really want to listen to all the voices in Kashmir. What about the inclusive tours that are being taken? I think one of the unfortunate failures of the state has been the failure of Sadbhavana program. which has happened in the last 30 years. It was a program intended to take Kashmiri youngsters and show them the rest of the country. But the way it was done in the nature of perception management. It was done in the nature of a psyops. And psyops is something which people easily understand. And the fundamental cause of failure of the Sadbhavna program was that it was presented to people in the nature of a psychological warfare, and people rejected it, and that was one of the unfortunate ways in which we lost one more battle in Kashmir. What about the aspirations of Jammu and Ladakh and other regions? I think one of the major problems in Kashmir today is that how we can possibly converge the aspirations of other two regions. That's why maintaining the territorial integrity of the state becomes even more important today than it was before. And the attempt is to divide the state into multiple regions that are being this time resisted. What was the root cause of conflict about radicalization? If you look at the available literature around radicalization, you will see that movement towards religion happens more in places where there is an element of despair, where there is an element of hopelessness, where there is conflict. I believe that radicalization is a consequence of conflict, not the cause of conflict. And I have solid research to prove that religious radicalization, to whatever extent happens in conflict zones, that's a consequence, not a cause. Why doesn't center take any initiative? That's my question as well. That the onus to people tell me, why don't you tell Pakistan to take an initiative? This is not my job to tell Pakistan to do whatever they want to do. My Mullah ki Dod Masjid, I can tell Delhi and impress upon them to take an initiative. Our job is to tell Delhi to come forward and do something about Kashmir. Should the dialogue be what should be the nature of the dialogue? People tell us that should certain people in Kashmir be talked to. I believe that everybody should be talked to if you want to solve the problem. And dialogue doesn't have to be trilateral only, it'll have to be a multilateral dialogue to bring in all the voices on the table. About change and how to create alternative media, ma'am, I would want you to answer that question. How to restore faith in Indian democracy? It's really a big task for me as well, because people tell me that the kind of experiments which have happened in the past, those experiments have failed, and you're going to fail as well. There is absolutely no reason to trust the democratic institutions of this country, but my belief is that we need to give one more chance to ourselves. Whatever has not worked in the past, we need to make it work, because we do not have any alternatives other than engaging democratically with the rest of the country. Last one question about the role of Kashmiri women. I think that's one of the most important themes which I am working on, because Kashmiri women are basically the worst sufferers of conflict. It's finally the mother and the daughter and the sister who has suffered really in the last 30 years. I wish we can restore the political agency of the Kashmiri women, and my task will be to ensure that when we talk about democratic participation, we can possibly restore the agency to the Kashmiri women and reserve their spaces and ensure that they get their due as well in the democratic space. I think that basically sums up most of the questions. Thank you.
On the media. We have enough answers on the media.
What do we do with the toxic newsrooms?
I wish we had an answer to what we can do, because the reach of the non-funded media is nothing as compared to the reach of the funded media. And this is what we've been saying it for years. It's like, you're standing and you keep on saying the same thing over and over again, and journalists ourselves, we don't listen to each other, that when the appearance of television came in, and television came in with the money bags, and the corporates came in and they controlled the editors, they controlled the working journalists. I still remember that we had 14 parties, political parties, coming together after intervention by CPA, many interventions by CPA at the board club, at the Constitution Club lawns. And it was the first time that 14 political parties said that AFSPA should be abolished and we should get rid of it. I thought it was, it's a headline call, all the major parties. Entire media was there, one phone call, and this is not 4 years ago, this was about 7, 8 years ago, so you can figure out who was in government then. One phone call, and that was it was blacked out. News on Kashmir was completely not a line appeared. And they were all there, all friends, colleagues, because it was an important coming together. So the thing is that there is this
discrepancy. I mean, this kind of discrimination, tremendous discrimination. And we don't have an answer. You know, the digital space is available to us today. The funding has already started coming into the digital space. You have various people who you think are independent are probably getting funding from various sources who have come years ago. And but they know that on the digital social media space, you need to have some criticism while you go along with some of the mainstream stories. So you can see that manipulation already happening. And they haven't come full-time because full-time advertisements have not yet come into the digital space, but I can see already the destruction beginning. What's the answer? I don't know. There are two answers maybe. One, we start cooperatives funded by journalists and by people like you. And two, all of you start paying for the news instead of looking for free news. That's a killer, because when you read free news, then the 1 rupee of Times of India giving you this much raddi, which the housewife then can sell for 2 rupees, completely destroys us. Because they can give you news at no price. But news gathering requires price. How do we do it? It's something that we have to take a collective decision. Otherwise, what's happening in Kashmir will continue, and what's happening in the rest of India will continue.
Thank you. Prabir, last comment?
Yeah, I just have two very short comments. One is, I think the issue is not the answers in Kashmir. The issue is the kind of questions we raise. And I'm very happy Shah Faizal is raising those kind of questions. The second is about the media. We really need to understand the media that is coming in, including the digital media. And I think as CPA, we should make an attempt to also organize some discussions in media. It cannot be done in such a short time.
Yes. Before I thank my panelists and Shah Faizal in particular, I'd like to thank the audience. You have been wonderful. It's been a very, very productive session. And a big clap for such charged young people. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
1 second.
Another time.
1 minute. I just want to thank the chair for being so wonderful. And I also want to thank Shah Faizal. We were on tenterhooks, and I think it shows his character and his courage that he came despite the tensions and, you know, the tightrope walking that he thought he would do. And he had that character to come down to Delhi as promised and then ask us to do something else rather than just the lecture. I really admire you for that. I would ask Mr. Murarkar to give Shah Faizal a little token of books. CPA only believes in books, not in money, unfortunately. And Probir, another trustee of ours, to Neera Chandu. Thank you so much, everyone, for being so good and a wonderful audience. Thank you.
I just kept time. Thank you. Very good. I'm so proud.